Most of you did not clap from the Senate. Honorable Minister, if we didn't clap from this side, I'm sure you know it's because we don't clap in the Senate. I am Michael Opeyemi Bamidele. I represent Ekiti Central Senatorial District, and by the grace of God, the chairman of the committee. It's really my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of our distinguished colleagues and on behalf of the leadership of the Senate to the 2022 budget defense hearing of the Federal Ministry of Justice and its parastatals. As you are aware, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, on Thursday, 7th October 2022, presented before the joint sitting of the National Assembly the 2022 national budget in line with Section 81 Sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as altered. Thereafter, the Senate deliberated on the general principles of the appropriation bill and resolved to refer it to standing committees for further legislative action. And the standing committees, being subcommittees under the Appropriations Committee for the purpose of consideration of money bills, are expected to carry out a thorough and painstaking budget defense exercise and report back accordingly. The legislative exercise is one of the most viable legislative activities aimed at ensuring equitable distributions of the country's resources with regards to allocation and implementation of projects and infrastructure to meet the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians. Therefore, the importance of this exercise is not only sacrosanct for the socio-economic and political development of the country, but also germane towards providing democratic dividends to the citizenry. In view of the importance of this exercise, the Senate on Tuesday, 13th October 2021, adjourned its plenary sitting to enable standing committees embark on legislative oversight responsibility visits to MDAs for the purpose of appraising the implementation and performance of the 2021 Appropriation Act in order to pave way for budget defense exercise that we are here for today. It is noteworthy to state that the committee resolved to hold this budget defense today in order to keep to the time frame within which committees are expected to report back to the Senate Appropriation Committee. This is necessary in order to fast-track the passage of the 2022 budget before the end of the year. Thereafter, the committee will proceed with the oversight responsibilities visit, which would equally enable the committee to ascertain the veracity of how the allocations for the various MDAs under the ministry in the 2021 Appropriation Act were utilized. This visit, no doubt, will provide opportunities for interactive sessions whereby the committee will be briefed about any challenges and constraints encountered in the course of the implementation of the 2021 budget by the MDAs. Having said that, I wish to state that the 2022 budget estimates for the Federal Ministry of Justice and its parastatals and agencies, as contained in the appropriation bill before the National Assembly, is 61,229,472,666 naira only. Kindly note that this total sum is inclusive of the allocations to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, which is not an agency under the jurisdiction of this committee. Also, the statutory transfer to the National Human Rights Commission, which is an independent statutory body, and not one of the agencies under the Federal Ministry of Justice is included in the sum. Therefore, the actual budgetary proposal for the Ministry of Justice and its parastatals that concern this committee with respect to today's exercise, after deducting allocations to the aforesaid institutions, is 18,377,183,815 naira only. After deducting the allocations to the NDLEA, which is 38,152,288,851 naira only, and the National Human Rights Commission allocation, which is 4,500,000 naira only. And below are the comparative analysis of the 2021 budgetary allocation against the 2020 budget proposals as per the MDAs under the Federal Ministry of Justice. Ministry of Justice, Headquarters. Total allocation for 2021 was 7,778,359 naira only, while for 2022 estimates, it's 11,316,387,398 naira only, which signals an increase of 3,595,609,039 naira. And for the Nigerian Law Reform Commission, the total allocation for 2021 budget was 525,116,536 naira. And for 2022 budget estimates, total is 595,606,798 naira, which again is an increase by 70,490,262 naira only. For Legal Aid Council, total allocation for 2021 budget was 1,276,713,258 naira, and for 2022 total is 1,322,177,175 naira, an increase of 45,463,907 naira. Council of Legal Education, total allocation for 2021, 1,483,267,138 naira, and for 2022 estimates, 2,558,626,851 naira only, an increase of 1,759,713 naira only. Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, total allocation for 2021 was 978,361,032 naira only, while for 2022 is a total of 1,014,392,443 naira, signaling an increase of 36,031,411 naira. Nigerian Copyright Commission, total allocation for 2021 budget 714,059,977 naira. For 2022 estimates, 1,420,900,327 naira, which means an increase of 706,000,000 840,350 naira. And finally, for Regional Center for International Commercial Arbitration, total allocation for 2021 was 107,582,795 naira only. And for 2022, budget estimate total of 149,092,823 naira, signaling an increase of 31,510,028 naira. That is the summary of our budget analysis. And having said this, I want to thank you, Honorable Minister, and all the accompanying heads of agencies for your attention. So, Honorable Minister, we will take your response, and then, of course, there will be two parts to your response. The first one will be to kind of take us through quickly the budget performance report on 2021 as a condition precedent for the consideration, the presentation of the budget proposal for 2022. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Members of this committee in making my presentation. It is indeed humbling and heartwarming for me and my team from the justice sector to make concise and wholesale presentations on 2022 budget defense of our statutory activities to this distinguished committee. I wish to thank you immensely for your diligent and unwavering, long-standing support for the justice sector. Your solid support has galvanized the operations of Federal Ministry of Justice and the parastatals under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Justice in many ways than one, for which we appreciate and shall always take you into confidence in our collective quest to deepen the rule of law and entrench our maturing democracy. The rule of law, as practiced all over the world, is the pivot upon which democracy revolves. The justice sector, as presently constituted, is bedeviled by funding inadequacies, too much for our comfort. The prime drivers of any given maturing democracy, such as ours, are the rule of law, due process of law, human rights, international obligations and allied matters. International obligations and indeed allied matters. Evidence reveals that administration of justice, which guarantees sustained peace, equity and fair play, is undeniably capital intensive. In the circumstances, we need to reconceptualize the existing funding pattern of the justice sector. Lamentably, however, practically all the parastatals under the purview of the Federal Ministry of Justice are in dire need of funding. For me, this is as dangerous as it is disturbing, because funding gaps in the face of competing challenges could endanger effective administration of justice and cause unwarranted travesty of justice. True enough, the justice sector is not primarily a revenue-generating subsector. This is because our constitutional obligations revolve around social services geared towards a peaceful, cohesive, and prosperous Nigeria. As a subsector, our revenue derives essentially from our constitutional activities and returns such as value-added tax, withholding tax, stamp duties, return on DTA, certified true copies, earnings from the use of government halls, tenders fees, earnings from sales of government and serviceable vehicles, sales of law books and journals, and rent of government properties. However, the ministry was mandated to embark on the recovery of looted assets, and we have recorded appreciable milestones in this regard, as monies recovered are promptly deposited into government treasury, thereby increasing the revenue profile of the government. Presently, we are making efforts to ensure that we allocated some cost of collection from recovered funds to finance our recovery operations, in view of the fact that even when we have recorded tremendous success of recovering around $1 billion over time, yet there is not a single kobo allocation in the direction of such recoveries. To date, there are large sums of illicit money stashed abroad, for which we are working at close quarters with ICPC and EFCC as defendable allies to effect recovery of same. The ministry handles public prosecution and civil litigation for the Federation, and sometimes outsources these services, particularly as it relates to being prosecuted internally, where state council have legal internationally, where legal limitations are placed on state council to prosecute. We all know that legal services, especially litigations, are not cheap. Furthermore, the justice sector reforms we are currently undertaking are costly to execute. We therefore need your kind support with adequate funding to successfully prosecute them. To present reoccurrence of a case similar to fee and ID, Council, the Federal Executive Council, directed the Attorney General of the Federation to present a memo for the establishment of Federal Task Force to review and validate contracts, judgments, and arbitral awards, and implement the federal verification system to prevent abuses similar to the case of fee and ID. Federal Executive Council directed the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, to incorporate the funding requirements of the Federal Contract Administration System in Nigeria in the Federal Ministry of Justice's 2022 budget proposal. The capital and overhead components of the FCAS are therefore accordingly incorporated in the 2022 budget. As 2022 beckons, I'm looking forward to a more refreshing feeling of common bond between the justice sector and all the distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for a seamless administration of justice in Nigeria. Yeah. In conclusion, Your Excellency, and with particular regard to the prayers of our distinguished Senator Manager, it is my conclusion that the year 2021 is rolling to an end, and I can state without mincing words that the year is replete with fair and unfair challenges arising from competing needs and demands, especially given the unending COVID-19 pandemic, kidnapping, and armed banditry challenges, among others. In the face of scarce but allocated resources, and granted the fact that the justice sector superintends over the rule of law It is hereby reasoned that we should reconceptualize the justice architecture in tandem with the vital role of justice delivery and administration in a heterogeneous society such as ours. If we are to crystallize our democracy firmly, it is incumbent on us to build a bridge across justice, covering a broad spectrum of activities because of our plural composition and divergent views on national issues. The year 2022 is another defining moment in the annals of our history. In any event, Federal Ministry of Justice shall do its level best at ensuring that the nuances of politics do not compromise our justice dispensation. We need your support with adequate funding to achieve these feats. Mr. Chairman, sir, we have presented before you the 2022 budget proposal and performance report presented to the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters. By the presentation, Mr. Chairman, we started with the review of the 2021 budget. I believe a copy of the performance has been presented and circulated among the distinguished members of the committee. I will proceed, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, to address. Thank you very much. To address the issues relating to review of the 2021 budget. In paragraph 1 of the report as presented, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members, you find the personnel cost, which is 2,852,966,007 naira 0 kobo, which was indeed the personnel cost provided relating to the 2021 budget. So item Roman 2, Mr. Chairman, is an overhead cost excluding legal services, which is 996,326,967 naira. The legal services component, which is listed as Roman 3, is 2,514,608 naira. For the capital, Your Excellency, which is itemized as Roman 4, the sum of 1,870,970,780 naira was expended. This brings the total budget review in that direction to 7,720,778,359 naira. Below the summary, Mr. Chairman, you find breakdown of the items listed: personnel cost, generally inclusive of the salaries and wages, non-regular allowances having been provided. As it relates to item B, which is overhead cost expenditure, Mr. Chairman, out of the total sum of 2,996,841,572 appropriated for the main ministry's overhead cost operations in 2021 financial year, the total sum of 2,632,179 naira 24 kobo has been released as at 30th September 2021, representing 75% of the appropriation. The appropriation releases, expenditure, variances, and percentage implementation performance are as shown on table 1, hereby attached as Appendix A. On the issue of capital expenditure, which is item C, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the committee, from the appropriation sum of 1,870,970,780 naira 0 kobo for capital cost expenditure, the sum of 1,870,970,780 523,205,867 naira 60 kobo has been released. This appropriated amount was to cover the following capital projects as contained in the 2021 appropriation. Below is a table giving an insight as to the capital projects that were meant to be serviced by the said appropriation. In terms of revenue, Mr. Chairman, which is item D, as contained in 23, as you are aware, the Federal Ministry of Justice is not primarily a higher revenue generating agency. Nevertheless, the sum of 40,119,665 naira 87 kobo was generated as at 30th September 2021. This, Your Excellency may wish to note, does not include the recoveries being made by the Federal Ministry of Justice that runs into billions of naira, which equally constituted a budget item. I am not in a position to give you with precision the amount that has been indeed generated arising from the recovery of looted asset exercise of it, but Your Excellency, I wish to report that it runs into billions. When I talk of revenue generated as it relates to item D, I am specifically making reference to the revenue generated arising from the limited services being provided by the Federal Ministry as it relates to value-added tax, tender fee, among others. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman and distinguished members of the committee, I now proceed with the submissions on the 2022 budget. The ministry submitted a budget proposal of the sum of 11,820,446,099 naira for the 2022 financial year. This, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members consist of the following. 1. Personnel cost. The presentation made by the ministry as it relates to personnel cost is 3,970,581,732 naira 0 kobo. Item Roman 2 is overhead cost exclusive of legal services, in respect of which 2,401,427,464 naira 0 kobo has been presented. Roman 3, Your Excellency, the Chairman, we presented a legal services component of 2,514,608 naira 0 kobo. For the capital relating to the 2022 budget submissions, we presented a proposal of 3,510,922,295 naira 0 kobo. This, Your Excellency, the Chairman, brings the 2022 budget submissions presented by the Federal Ministry of Justice to 11,820,446,099 naira 0 kobo. The breakdown of this component, Your Excellency, has been presented below the summary provided as proposed. For the personnel cost, 3,907,581,732 kobo. For the overhead cost, 4,100,942,072 naira 0 kobo. The respective information arising from this component has been provided by way of a simple literature. Your Excellency, as it relates to capital expenditure proposal as presented by way of summary, which is indeed 3,510,922,295 naira 0 kobo, which was indeed appropriated for the 2022 capital cost meant to procure and service the the underlisted items. At page 4, Mr. Chairman, description of the components that was meant to be serviced by the capital expenditure is provided. Roman 1, prosecution of prison inmates, maritime, offshore offenses, Boko Haram suspects, offenders of government, recovered assets, and then improving asset recovery and monitoring access. For that component, 308 million has been provided. Law and development, 120 million has been provided. Documentation, digitization, data entry, storage, and archiving of files and records, 314 million has been provided. Administration of criminal justice reform and monitoring, 479 million. International cooperation and diplomacy, international comparative law, 203 million. Establishment of federal task force and development of federal contract administration system in Nigeria, 1,100,000,000. It may interest the chairman and the honorable members of the committee that this component, that is the establishment of federal task force, is indeed intended to checkmate what we have considered as a present, a kind of looting of our resources arising from the conspiracy and connivance between the international businessmen and local civil servants that resulted to what we witnessed as the unhealthy effect of fee and ID case, by which Nigeria was to have been reaped of over $10 billion in respect of a contract that was indeed unduly vetted, which created a very unhealthy development in the system. So out of desire to checkmate those kind of occurrences, we have put off a consideration for federal task force and development of federal contracts, which will give us an opportunity to review contracts with such tendencies for the purpose of ensuring that not only Nigeria is saved of the impending liabilities, but then those that are responsible are effectively brought to justice. Your Excellency, I proceed. So again, in relation to citizens' rights, sexual gender-based violence, SGVV, response and torture reduction, which is item 7, where the sum of 95 million has been provided. Press and publications, library, law books, journals, and archives, 90 million has been provided. Information and communication technology, 294 million has been provided, and then coordination of Federal Ministry of Justice activities, 504, and that brings us to a total summation of 3,510,922,295 naira 0 kobo as far as capital expenditure proposal is concerned. However, the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning presented the sum of 3,6,863,591 naira 0 kobo against our capital proposal of 3.5 billion, resulting in a shortfall in the sum of 504 million. The shortfall represents a consolidated project titled Coordination of Federal Ministry of Justice Activities with a cost with a code ERGP 30178008 in the sum of 504,058,704, which consists of the following: renovation of Federal Ministry of Justice headquarters, purchase of medical facilities, annual procurement implementation plan, maintenance of directional signage and remodeling of ministries' reception, monitoring and evaluation of ministries and 7 parastatals project programs, human capacity building for professional and service department. Distinguished Senators, we urge you to consider the inclusion of the projects above in the sum of 504, taking into consideration their major effects. Particularly as it relates to capacity building for professionals, we cannot afford to provide the desired services both in context and in quantum if indeed no capacity building component is provided in the budget. More so, we have a part of it, the component relating to health, relating to monitoring and evaluation of ministries as the parastatals, among others. By way of conclusion, having taken inventory and presented our budget for the 2022 fiscal year, I can safely submit that our efforts are in tandem with all parameters and statutory guidelines. In the light of the foregoing, may I humbly invite distinguished members of the committee to consider and approve our modest 2022 budget of 11,820,446,009 kobo, please. Mr. Chairman, distinguished members, the heads of parastatals under the Federal Ministry of Justice are here, and with your permission, at the appropriate time, I urge you to call on them to make their respective presentations of the budgets relating to the parastatals they had. I thank you most humbly for the opportunity to make our modest presentation of the Federal Ministry of Justice 2022 budget proposal and the performance report relating to 2021. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members, for the opportunity to make this presentation.